22nd day of the shutdown. There's a lot of effects you hear about, for instance, air traffic controllers. We hear about obligations that are not being met, but there's a very important one to many Coloradans and people across the country that hits November 1st. On November 1st, 600,000 hardworking Coloradans, about half of whom are children, will not get their SNAP benefits to buy food with. Now, SNAP is what many of us used to call food stamps. It's a program that supports low-income families, hardworking families, families that are supported by wage earners that are earning minimum wage, slightly above that. If they have more kids, a little bit more. And it basically is a credit card that you spend at a grocery store and you put food on the table for your family. So it's a mainstay of keeping healthy and nutritious food in front of Colorado low-income families. It's kind of a linchpin of that. And essentially people will go without starting November 1st. Now, we hope that the federal government fixes this and reopens, and they will reopen someday. I hope that day is tomorrow and not December or January. But we have to plan right now to get things moving because it seems unlikely at this point they're going to reopen before November 1st. Even if they do, it takes a while to load the cards. If they were to open, for instance, on November 1st, people wouldn't get their benefits November 1st. It would probably take another week or so. So even if the federal government were to reopen right away, it's likely that people wouldn't have funds on their SNAP cards for at least a week in November, and again, likely more when the federal government opens. We hope that this is one of their top priorities to do. So what are we doing? First of all, this is a lot of money that goes to kids and families to eat. In fact, it's about $120 million per month. Obviously not something the state can afford to backfill. I don't think any state is. This is money that American taxpayers pay. Keep in mind the United States tax rate is much higher than the Colorado tax rate. Across America, you might pay 20%, 30%, as high as 37% income tax. In Colorado, it's 4.4%. So the federal government collects a lot more money. One of the ways they send that out when they're open is this nutritional supplement program. So obviously we don't have, nor does any state, we don't have $120 million moving around. But we are going to announce the actions we're taking today to help feed families in Colorado to make sure they don't go hungry just because the federal government can't get their act together and is closed. We're joined by Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, Minna Castillo, the Deputy Director in our Department of Health and Human Services that oversees the administration of SNAP. There's also a county role. Susana Cordova, the Education Commissioner. We're going to talk about schools and the roles they play in nutrition. Aaron Pulling, the President and CEO of Food Bank of the Rockies, the largest food bank in the state of Colorado. And we're also joined by Dawn Washington, a SNAP recipient who will also be available for questions here as well. And we encourage people to go out and talk to other SNAP recipients in the community about what this means for them. So in Colorado, I charged our team with what can we do to help? How can we help make sure that people don't go hungry in our state? And today we're announcing the steps that we're taking to support Coloradans who rely on SNAP. We know that more Coloradans will turn to food pantries and food banks without the needed SNAP support that they can spend in their local grocery store. So we're announcing the steps that we're proposing to bolster our food banks and food pantries to help meet the increased demand and feed more people. That's why today we're requesting up to $10 million in emergency funding from the Joint Budget Committee to support the increased demand for food banks and pantries to help close the gap to make sure people can get the food they need to feed themselves and their families. Now, this will mean different things for different people in different food banks. It's what we encourage SNAP recipients to do in early November is check with your local pantry or food bank. Some might up the limit on what you're allowed to take on a visit. Some might say, oh, we're normally a once a month, but because there's no SNAP benefits, we're letting you come twice this month. There's many different ways they can implement that, but we want to get this money out immediately to buy food. And they buy food at very good prices, very low prices. So obviously the $10 million is certainly not enough to fill the gap, but it is amplified. It might be more like 30 or 40 million of retail buying power, even higher. So it's certainly not the full 120 million, but don't think it's just 10 million. It might actually be what you might consider 40 or 50 million dollars of food at retail. So it might fill as much as half the gap, certainly doesn't fill the whole gap. And that's why we're also calling on donors and philanthropy to help support hungry Coloradans in need. We're announcing a new opportunity through Feeding Colorado for Coloradans and businesses to donate money, feedingcolorado.org/donate. Let me say that again, feedingcolorado.org/donate will go right out to the food banks and food pantries. They buy food very inexpensively, feedingcolorado.org/donate. That is more important than actual food donations. Certainly, you have extra things in your pantry, take them down to your church, your food bank, don't stop doing that. But they were able to buy, with $1, $5 worth of food or more. So feedingcolorado.org/donate, and they're also able to make sure it meets the nutritional needs of the people who might otherwise go hungry. So we are calling on my fellow Coloradans to join me in supporting feedingcolorado.org/donate. I also want to point out that half of our SNAP recipients in Colorado are children, and we want to make sure that families have the resources and information. Colorado schools offer free breakfast and lunch for every student every day. We want to make sure families know that students can get free breakfast and lunch at school every day and should avail themselves of that. We encourage Colorado students to take advantage of breakfast and lunch, providing a great way for kids to start their day energized and ready to learn, and lessening the parents' grocery bill, given that they won't have their SNAP card to pay for that in early November. Our Department of Education and Early Childhood, I've also directed to work with schools and child care providers to connect families with food resources to make sure every student has the food needed to grow, learn, and thrive. So people that have not previously been connected through a food pantry or a food bank should be connected to a food pantry or food bank, even if it's only for that short period of time as a 1 or 2 time customer while SNAP is offline. We want to make sure that people are able to be fed. For Coloradans who are impacted by these federal cuts, if you don't have a local food bank or pantry or you already visit, you can find one by visiting 211colorado.org or calling Colorado 211. You can also visit feedingcolorado.org, and there's a find food piece on the menu, just as there's a donate piece. So if you are looking to be connected to a pantry or a food bank because you will not have money for groceries in early November, check out that website. And we know that the impact, I would add, of this funding freeze goes beyond Coloradans who rely on SNAP. This also affects our grocery stores, our farmers, our ranchers. For every SNAP dollar that's spent, it puts $1.50 back in our economy. There's 10,000 grocery employees, and it particularly affects our grocers and stores in low-income areas and in food deserts, because they are the most susceptible, because a higher percentage of their customers use SNAP benefits. If they don't have those SNAP benefits, there could very well be layoffs or reduced hours from some of the grocers that serve a high percentage SNAP population. Later today, I'll be visiting a food bank in Colorado Springs to meet with staff on the front lines of this growing challenge. We want to do everything we can to help hardworking Coloradans get the food they need. We have a role to play to fill the gap created by the closure of the federal government, and so do you. So let's work together to make sure that no one goes hungry in the state of Colorado during this difficult time with the federal shutdown. And I'd like to turn it over to Colorado's Lieutenant Governor, a true leader on protecting access to health care. And of course, healthy food and nutrition is a key part of keeping people healthy. Actually, before I turn it over to her, I'm going to say a few words in Spanish. Is there a Spanish? There's a Spanish station here, is that right? Español? No? No hay? Then I won't need to do Spanish, that's good. We will now turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm Lieutenant Governor Diane Primavera, and I want to thank Governor Polis for your leadership and for making sure that even when Washington lets people down, Colorado steps up. As the governor said, more than 600,000 Coloradoans, half of them children, are facing the possibility of losing the support they rely on to put food on the table. That number isn't just a statistic, it's individuals and families in our communities. It's parents skipping meals so their kids can eat. It's people being forced to decide whether they pay for prescription drugs or food. It's older Coloradoans trying to stretch their groceries for one more week. It's neighbors and friends who are doing everything right, but still finding themselves in an impossible situation. I've met too many Coloradoans who know that feeling, who stood in the grocery aisle, their calculator in their hand, wondering what they can afford to take home that week. Food insecurity is not just about hunger. It's about dignity and the basic human need to know that your family will be okay. That's why today's actions matter so much. Because when SNAP food security access stops, the ripple effects are enormous. It means a level of stress and uncertainty that takes a real toll on people's health and their well-being. And yet, amid all of this, I continue to be inspired by the spirit of this state. Food banks, schools, and community organizations, faith-based groups are already stepping up, doing whatever it takes to fill the gap. This is who we are as Coloradoans. When our neighbors are hurting, we don't look away. We roll up our sleeves and we help. That's why I'm so proud of the governor's leadership in requesting $10 million in emergency funding for food banks, extending WIC support for women and children, and launching a partnership through Feeding Colorado to give every Coloradoan the chance to make a difference. Each of us can play a role, whether that's making a donation, volunteering, or simply checking in on someone who might be struggling, because no one in Colorado should ever have to wonder where their next meal is going to come from. As someone who spent my life working to ensure people have access to the care and resources they need, I know that food is foundational. You can't focus on your health, your education, or your job if you're hungry. Ensuring that every Coloradoan has enough to eat is about building stronger families, stronger communities, and a stronger Colorado. So to every Coloradoan stepping up right now, thank you. You are the reason this state is resilient. You are the reason we will get through this together. So thank you for your efforts. And I'll turn it over now to Susanna Cordova, our Commissioner of Education.
Thank you, Governor Polis and Lieutenant Governor Primavera, for your continued focus on the needs of Colorado children and families. As you've heard, over 600,000 Coloradans rely on SNAP benefits, and half of those are children. These young people are some of the most vulnerable in our communities, and our state leaders and community partners are stepping up to support families outside of school time, while our 178 school districts and BOCES are working hard to keep students fed during the school day. Last year, our schools served more than 31 million breakfasts and nearly 73 million school lunches. And I want to remind our Colorado families, our schools are open and serving a nutritious breakfast and lunch every day for all students. Starting the day with a healthy breakfast ensures that children can stay focused and engaged in their learning. Free school meals are an important resource, especially now to help fill the gap with the delay in SNAP benefits, which are a critical source of food for so many Colorado students. At the Colorado Department of Education, we're committed to continuing our support to districts and BOCES as they provide free breakfast and lunch at Colorado schools and to ensure that every child has the support they need to thrive. Families can visit their school's website or reach out to your child's teacher to find out what time breakfast is served at school. We're here to ensure that every student can thrive, and healthy meals are an important part of that. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Deputy Executive Director of Community Partnerships, Minna Castillo.
Good morning. My name is Minna Castillo, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Community Partnerships at the Department of Human Services. SNAP is a vital program that we deliver and administer across our state. It is a lifeline to hundreds and thousands of individuals, most of those children, 50%. We have 10% that are elderly and 15% that are people with disabilities. There is nothing more important to CDHS than empowering Coloradans to thrive, and SNAP is one major way that we are able to fulfill that mission. Colorado distributes about $120.5 million federal dollars every single month to help people access that food. The average household receives $367 per month. The lack of SNAP access for November and beyond will have an adverse impact on Coloradans in need because SNAP provides nearly 1.8 million meals per day. If you're thinking of a family that is feeding their children 3 meals a day, that is astounding amount of resources into Colorado that we don't have coming for November. And we're already hearing from Coloradans who are worried about how they are going to be able to purchase the groceries that they rely on. They need the fruits and the vegetables and the proteins that they're able to purchase with SNAP, and those things are feeling out of reach, and they are already making decisions about how they are going to make do next month, what they will have to go without. The disruption of SNAP funding could have major consequences in many ways because studies have shown us that children with food insecurity have health impacts. It impacts their ability to learn. It impacts workers in the workplace and mental health. And we know that it has an impact on the overall health and well-being of all of the recipients in Colorado, and poor health outcomes, as well as increased costs associated with their health. That's estimated at $1,863 per person per year. Again, for those people experiencing food insecurity. And you've heard our local economy will also suffer as retailers will have people spending fewer dollars in their shops. And we are especially concerned about our small, local, and rural shops who are really going to depend on this resource coming into their community for people purchasing. That's their employees, that is their own livelihood. From losing out on that $1.50 that comes back into Colorado's economy with every dollar spent, we have 10,000 grocery store workers here in Colorado whose jobs are partially funded by that SNAP spending. Those impacts, therefore, are far and wide. And of that $120.5 million that is spent every single month in Colorado, that really has a huge impact on our local grocery retailers. These are our friends and neighbors who are our grocery store employees, the people who stock, the people who drive, all of those food infrastructure workers. Those salaries are benefiting from the $120 million of federal resources that are not going to be available in November. SNAP is a big impact on those food folks in Colorado, our farmers and our ranchers, as well as their families and their employees. Without the ability to purchase at farmers markets, that has an impact on those folks too. We are absolutely prepared at the Department of Human Services to be able, the minute these funds come back online, to be able to distribute those resources onto the EBT cards so that our community has the resources they need to have the food to fill their pantries and their refrigerators. We continue to process all applications and really encourage people who need food benefits to continue to apply. We're going to continue to recertify as well so that the moment those funds are available to us, every eligible person who needs that food access can have that benefit on those cards. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce Erin Pulling from Food Bank of the Rockies.
Good morning. Thank you, Minna. I'm Erin Pulling, CEO of Food Bank of the Rockies. Food banks and food pantries across Colorado are facing a crisis unlike anything we have ever seen. The Feeding Colorado network of food banks, which is Care and Share Food Bank for Southern Colorado, Community Food Share, Weld Food Bank of the Rockies, and Food Bank for Larimer County, collectively serve more than 1,000 food pantries and other food distribution organizations, and hundreds of thousands of neighbors directly. More than 600,000 Coloradans may not be receiving SNAP benefits for the month of November, as they typically do, to put food on the table for their families. SNAP is a lifeline. For every single meal a food bank provides, SNAP provides 9. When that lifeline is cut, people turn to food banks and food pantries for help. At Food Bank of the Rockies, we're already seeing more than a 20% increase over last year at many of our food distributions. And that's because of the cost of living. We're seeing this in Metro Denver, we're seeing it in rural Colorado, where wages simply just aren't keeping up with the cost of living. And amidst this heightened need, we've had a reduction in the USDA government commodity food we receive. At Food Bank of the Rockies, that reduction has totaled 7% of our food supply, or enough food every day for 14,000 meals that we are not delivering because of that reduction. And now we're also bracing for reductions in SNAP and Medicaid that were passed several months ago. Those haven't taken effect yet. Already we're facing a crisis, and this is before the threat of the lack of SNAP benefits for the month of November. Just the reduction that was passed several months ago in SNAP, that is going to leave an estimated gap of 120% of the volume of food that food banks provide now. Quite literally, this is a crisis within a crisis. During this time of uncertainty, Food Bank of the Rockies and the other Feeding Colorado food banks are gearing up. We are gearing up to provide additional food to our network of more than 1,000 hunger relief partner organizations and directly to our neighbors. But we cannot do this alone. We are relying more than ever on the compassion and the generosity of Coloradans, taking action with a collective belief that no person, no family, no child should lack the food that they need to thrive. The most effective way people can help right now is by making a financial gift through feedingcolorado.org/donate. As the governor shared, we have massive purchasing power and the ability to scale up. We are bringing in 40 truckloads of food every week, and we are ready, willing, and able, but we need the community's support. For every dollar we get donated, we can actually distribute enough food for 3 meals. To our neighbors struggling to put food on the table, we are here. We are here to help. And to the broader community, now is the time for us to stand together to ensure that every neighbor has the food that they need for their families to thrive. Today, tomorrow, and in the challenging weeks ahead, we can only face this crisis with our community's generosity. Thank you.
So I want to make sure people understand how the mechanism works. So it's $10 million, but it is $3.3 million every 2 weeks. So if the federal government were to reopen, let's say November 10th, it will just be the first tranche of 3.3 that would have gone out for those first 2 weeks. So this should get us to, along with your support, which is absolutely critical at feedingcolorado.org/donate, this would get us to mid-December. And if for some reason the shutdown goes through the end of the year, we would have to revisit what else we can do. But it is 3.3 million going right out upon approval. 2 weeks later, another third, and then December 1st, the final third. And we certainly hope, for many reasons, this among them, that the federal government reopens before the end of the year in December. I sure hope it's sooner rather than later. Again, feedingcolorado.org/donate. If you are hungry, feedingcolorado.org/find-food if you are hungry and do not have a relationship currently with a food bank or pantry. If you do have a relationship with a food bank or pantry, check with them to see how they can accommodate you. It could mean more visits a month. It could mean you could pick up more on each visit. And please, if you have kids in school, take advantage of breakfast and lunch for your children. And with that, we'll be happy to take some questions.
Before you question Spanish,
Okay, I'll say something in Spanish. El cierre del gobierno federal está amenazando el acceso de los alimentos de 600,000 personas de Colorado, más de la mitad de los cuales son niños que dependen del SNAP para alimentarse a sí mismos y a sus familias. Aunque en Colorado no podemos reponer los 120 millones de dólares, porque no lo tengo naturalmente, estamos haciendo todo lo posible para ayudar a las personas de Colorado a obtener suficientes alimentos para comida. Estamos tomando las siguientes medidas. Solicitar hasta 10 millones de dólares para apoyar el aumento de la demanda de los bancos de alimentos y las despensas, con el fin de ayudarles a satisfacer la mayor demanda a la que se enfrentan. También solicitar que la seguridad nutricional del programa Women, Infants y Children, WIC, aprobada para octubre, se mantenga durante noviembre con el fin de garantizar que las familias jóvenes puedan obtener los alimentos que necesitan. Lanzar un nuevo recurso para mostrar dónde los habitantes de Colorado dependen más de la ayuda alimentaria para llegar a fin de mes. Y anunciar una nueva oportunidad para que los habitantes y las empresas de Colorado donen dinero para ayudar a satisfacer la creciente demanda de ayuda alimentaria. Por favor, visite feedingcolorado.org/donate para dar dinero para comprar comida para personas que tienen hambre. Finalmente, animamos a los estudiantes de Colorado a que aprovechen el desayuno y el almuerzo gratuitos en todas las escuelas disponibles para todos los estudiantes de Colorado. Questions?
Governor, the 3.3 million every 2 weeks is like, what, 5% of what the federal government usually gives for this? Well, can you explain a little bit more about the gap between?
Yeah, so the federal, directly recipients receive about $120 million a month in Colorado. We are pushing out from the state $10 million, that's a month and a half, over a month and a half, to food banks and pantries. We are also calling upon our fellow Coloradans to donate to help bridge that gap. feedingcolorado.org/donate. The gap is significant, but again, it's not as significant as when you first look at those numbers. The $10 million buys more food. The $120 million is retail. So that's the prices you pay at the grocery store, right? The food banks are able to obtain food for a fraction of that cost. At the most, half, but the average is far less than half. So that $10 million, for instance, would likely buy the retail equivalent of $40 or $50 million worth of food. So there is still a significant gap in food between $120 million and $50 million. And we hope that our fellow Coloradans also donate to help address that gap. You can donate food to your local church or pantry, but the biggest leverage and the biggest benefit, because of that price difference and the way that the bulk buying works, is to be able to actually donate $5, $10, $100, whatever you can afford, at feedingcolorado.org/donate.
And are you going to donate, sir?
I will, yes.
Taylor, and then John.
How soon do you expect the JDC to approve the funds, and how soon will they get to the food banks?
We expect this to happen prior to November 1st, so we expect that this will be brought to the Joint Budget Committee shortly, and we're hopeful that they will then move forward with this in time for us to get the money out so that food can be bought.
And the idea is that 10 million will last through mid-December?
Yes, this initial request is what we would do as long as the federal government reopens in early December. If the federal government is still closed, and it looks like it's going to be closed through the end of the year, we'll have to revisit what else we can do, because this will not cover any additional support for food banks in late December.
John, and then Sarah.
Governor, I'm wondering if you can respond to the story in the Denver Post today about you still pursuing ICE documents and trying to cooperate with the Trump administration on some immigration matters. Why are you still working with Trump? Why are you trying to release these documents after the judge said you shouldn't?
Well, I haven't seen the story, John. I'm happy to look at it. I only read Axios. I don't read anything else. So, but I would say that we are deeply committed to fighting human trafficking. And when the federal government, especially the criminal investigative unit of ICE, wants our help investigating human trafficking, we are happy to help. And that's whether Biden is the president, whether Trump's the president, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that vulnerable children are not being trafficked in the state of Colorado. And we're happy to assist any legitimate investigative authority to help make sure that children are out of harm's way.
Sarah, and then Colleen.
Two questions. Why do 3.3 million every 2 weeks instead of 10 million all at once? And will this be coming from reserve funds or?
So we don't know how long the shutdown is going to be, and so we hope, right? We hope that the federal government reopens first week in November, right? Then the SNAP cards would be loaded by the second week in November, so it would just cover those first 2 weeks. So we wanted the flexibility to be able to adjust depending on how long this shutdown occurs, is why, for instance, we're doing this now. And then again, 3 requests would mean, the JBC won't want to convene over, like, for instance, Thanksgiving week. We want to be ready, for instance, for Thanksgiving if the government's still closed. So that's the reason that we want this flexibility. What was your second question?
Are you requesting from the reserve?
Yeah, these funds will be accounted for. We are, we are going to be submitting right now our balanced budget we submit within the next week. And these funds will be fully accounted for in that budget submitted. It's due November 1st, but I think this year, November 1st, is the way the weeks work, we might have it ready a day or two earlier. But we will be submitting that budget, and yes, these funds will be included in our balanced budget.
Colleen and then Robert.
On the school side, since voters are being asked now about extending funding for school meals, I'm wondering, does the state have enough money for increased demand?
So they're sort of related, but not directly related, right? So it's certainly not related to the current crisis with SNAP shutting down and the federal government being shut down, right? Like there is no, that is what we're dealing with here. That the federal government is shut down and no money is being put on SNAP. What HR 1 requires is a state match for SNAP in 27-28, is that correct, Mark?
Yes, 26, 27.
No, but the match, the SNAP match starts when?
Administrative 26, 27.
The big one, 27-28, yeah. So there's administrative match in the next budget year. There is a actual match for these dollars the year after that. That is what the funds from the initiatives would do. So they're not, again, it's related to SNAP, but I want to make sure people know it's not related to this crisis. There is no SNAP when the federal government shut down. Like, there is none. There's no match, there's nothing, because there's no SNAP. The money from those initiatives will go to the state matching SNAP to make sure that people can stay on SNAP once the government reopens, and that the state can meet its obligation to do that, as well as keep breakfast and lunches free for every student in Colorado.
But do you have enough money now for increased demand if more kids wanted free meals?
Yeah, I'll go to Commissioner Cordova, but every student can access breakfast and lunch, and I'm sure the districts, depending on their free and reduced lunch count, are getting ready for more demand. Do you want to speak to that, Commissioner?
Sure, thank you. We certainly know that the uptake of healthy school meals for all has been very popular, much more popular at lunch than at breakfast. We do have capacity for more students to eat breakfast at school, and so that's what we really want to encourage, is students to eat breakfast at school, particularly during this time.
And the school districts are aware that they may need, depending on the school district, they're getting ready for this as well.
Robert and then Adrian.
Yeah, Governor, are you prepared if the shutdown goes through that mid-December deadline? Are you prepared to ask for more funding? And at what point does that start to become too much of a burden on the state? I mean, given the fiscal reality right now, I mean, at what point can you just not continue to backfill that?
Yeah, so frankly, I mean, the seams start coming off of a lot more things if the shutdown goes into November. I mean, this is really just one of them. Yes, there's a need for food, and yes, we're going to reconvene and see what we can do if we have to cover it into late December, early January. But there's a lot more things that start falling apart as the federal shutdown continues. But we are today announcing the steps that we want to take through mid-December. If it goes on longer, we will need this will be SNAP and nutrition will be part of it, but we'll need an even more comprehensive strategy about all the impact from the federal shutdown.
Adrian and Nick.
How will those funds be distributed to different food banks across the state?
Sure, it goes to the, what's the master entity? No, there's one above that.
Feeding Colorado is the Feeding America Food Banks in Colorado.
Yeah, Feeding Colorado. So for those who follow the Joint Budget Committee, this is an existing line item in the budget. And in the past, we've done things with it, and it goes to, say it again?
Feeding Colorado.
Feeding Colorado, which is the same place, by the way, your charitable contributions go, right? So the state is putting money in the same place that your charitable contributions go. Food Bank of the Rockies is the single largest food bank in Colorado, but not the only one. They cover what % of the state?
Just over half of the
Yeah, so they alone are more than half the state. And then there's several others that,
Should I speak to that?
yeah, you want to speak to that? Sure.
Absolutely, yeah. So Feeding Colorado, and Mandy Nuku is here, our Executive Director of Feeding Colorado, if people have additional questions after as well. It's a network of the 5 Feeding America food banks that serve the state of Colorado as well as Wyoming. So we've said it's Food Bank of the Rockies, Care and Share Food Bank for Southern Colorado, Weld Food Bank for Larimer County, and Community Food Share. Collectively, we provide food to more than 1,000 hunger relief partner organizations. These are homeless providers, they're food pantries, other types of food distribution organizations. We also serve people directly. We have the ability to bring in donated food. About half of our food is donated. We also have massive purchasing power. Like I said, we're bringing in semi-trucks full of food every single day. We're distributing that food both directly to people in need as well as through our network of hunger relief partners. We are ready, willing, and able, and quickly able to scale up those operations. The one missing factor that we don't have is enough funding to do that, especially given the reduction in USDA food and funding we're receiving. With this influx of contributions through the state and hopefully through the generosity of our community, we can do a much better job meeting this need in this moment of crisis.
And Nick, last question.
Yeah, Governor, following up on John's question, the judge ruled that complying with ICE subpoenas probably violates state law. Why are you still trying to comply with them?
Well, no, of course, we always, we comply with every ruling. I think the most recent motions were around the lack of standing issue, and there could be others. We feel that obviously pursuing through the courts, we will, of course, prevail in being to help any Coloradans who are being trafficked. And obviously, as a basic value, we want to make sure that we work with our federal partners where it's consistent with our values, where it helps in criminal investigations to avoid child trafficking, and we don't let them commandeer state resources for unrelated investigations regarding civil law federally.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, yes, we have Dawn Washington. We have a SNAP recipient. You want to join us up here for a moment, Dawn, so people can see you? And if she's available to do questions with the media as well. And again, I encourage you to find SNAP recipients. There's over 600,000 of them. They're our friends and neighbors. There's many of them. Dawn is here and willing to speak to anybody who wants to speak with her. Thank you.